Hello, welcome back to Fallout 76. So it looks like we've got official confirmation of the changes that have long been predicted. Basically, legendary cores will disappear, but the new news is that Bethesda has officially confirmed how they'll be dealt with. It was always a matter of speculation, and I think it was fairly common knowledge that they would become Scrip, right, on a 1-to-1 ratio. But it's now officially official, and that means that we can now start to plan what to do with those legendary cores with a high degree of certainty about what's going to happen. So on September 3rd, each legendary core that you have will be converted into one Scrip. So for example, if you have 1000 legendary cores, that will be converted into 1000 legendary Scrip. Hopefully I don't need to tell you that this is a really bad exchange rate. So it really behooves on every single one of you out there to use them up as much as possible before September 3rd. Now, in order to help us with that, Bethesda will extend the Scrip surplus event. So what that means is that from now on until September 3rd, the daily Scrip limit will be 1000 instead of the normal 500. I believe that when Milepost 0 releases, we're going to get a temporary increase to our total Scrip limit in order to allow whatever modules you have to be converted into Scrip without losing them, right? But like I said before, getting one Scrip for one core is just a really bad trade-off, so you should really focus on using them up as much as possible before the update releases. But that obviously begs the question, what would be the best way to use them? You can check how many cores you have under the miscellaneous tab in your inventory, and in my case I've got about 500 or something. So there's a couple of ways to use legendary cores. One of them is to turn a non-legendary item into a legendary item. So each time you do that, that will cost you 5 cores, as well as some modules, right? The other use is to re-roll a legendary item. You can also use this functionality to check how many cores you have, right? But be very careful of not clicking. You don't want to lose a really good roll, right? So as part of the changes that will come about on September 3rd, you will still retain the ability to turn a non-legendary into a legendary item. Now it will cost legendary modules only, no, not cores anymore, right? Not cores. But you will lose the ability to re-roll existing legendaries. The only way you'll have to modify the legendary properties will be to engage with a new legendary crafting system. Now, because you lose the ability to re-roll, I highly recommend that you prioritize re-rolling unique legendaries while you still can. Bethesda have made it quite clear that they want to get rid of things like the branding iron, right? Holy fires, well, it's the customized versions. Early on in the PTS it looked like they were just going to disable them altogether, just like other legacy weapons, but it looks like they have walked back on that one. But it is clear that Bethesda does not like this. If you look at the new unique weapons that we've got, they're not re-rollable. So the ability to re-roll unique legendaries into customized versions will be disappearing. Effectively. Maybe not immediately, but it's obvious that Bethesda wants it gone. So I would say that the first priority should be to make sure that you get whatever legendary properties you want on those unique weapons. So like for example, this Holy Fire is bloodied, low weight, and it does extra damage while aiming. It's really good. And I pair that up with a normal Holy Fire, right? So essentially flamers for life, as they say. Another really good candidate is the Elder's Mark. If you haven't yet got the version that you want, then this is a really good candidate for that. It also turns out that I had a couple of Enclave Plasmas in my stash. This is the right time to re-roll them, folks. You will lose the ability to re-roll these in the future. So at the very least, you want to get them to 2 good stars and then manipulate the 3rd star to get your god roll. Same with fixers. If you don't have a really good fixer yet, and you want one, of course, then this is the right time to craft one and turn it into a legendary. Aim for 2 good stars, and then you can manipulate the 3rd star by the crafting system. But at the very least, you want 1 good star on your fixer, and then you can fiddle around with the other 2. When it comes to armor, if you still don't have a good set of endgame gear, and you're going for a boss or a civil engineer set, then this is the right time to craft them and turn them into legendaries. Once again, you want at least 1 good star, ideally 2. 3 would be absolutely amazing, but that's very unlikely, right? So go and craft yourself 1. Then go into the modify menu and turn them into legendaries, like so. If you don't have endgame gear for your armor, then this is a great way to use up those cores. A small caveat is that if you are going for Secret Service armor instead, it is actually cheaper to craft new sets at the cost of 1 legendary module instead of re-rolling. You can still re-roll, but you do end up using more modules and cores as part of the process. It is cheaper to simply re-roll. So Secret Service armor is not a good way to use up those legendary cores. But like I said before, I think you should really focus on the unique items. So if there's a hard to obtain weapon that you want to turn into a legendary, focus on that. In my case, that would be Enclave Flamers or unique legendaries like the Elder's Mark. Now, if you happen to not have those unique legendaries, then I'd highly recommend that you do Beasts of Burden whenever it turns up. That one has a chance to either give you the Holy Fire or the Elder's Mark as a reward for the event. Do this whenever it turns up. The other one to look at is the Safe and Sound event, because that has a chance to drop the Branding Iron. That one's really good if you're into melee, especially once you customize it like I have. Now if you have about 500 legendary cores, and you want to use them to reroll legendaries, that will require about 20,000 scrip, which is obviously not something that anybody has, right? The maximum limit of scrip is about 6,000, so you will run out of scrip and you will have to get more in order to use up all your legendary cores. So obviously that brings up the question of how you're going to get more, right? The easiest way by far is to do eviction notice. If you do it right and you hang around the spawn points where most of the legendaries pop up, then you're very likely to reach the 1000 scrip daily limit in one event. So make sure you do eviction notice whenever it pops up for the next couple of weeks. But of course public events happen at random, so you can't predict when an eviction notice will happen. The more reliable way is to run expeditions, especially to Atlantic City, and particularly the one at the boardwalk. That's generally the fastest one, unless you get the escort side mission, right? But generally speaking, most of the time it should be very quick to finish. And once you're done with that, that should give you 6 or so legendaries, randomly chosen, right? But the important thing is that you can turn some of them into scrip. And as a bonus, if you happen to get an item with 2 great stars, you can keep it and then modify it into a great 3-star item once the changeover happens, right? So yes, for the next couple of weeks, make sure that you're running expeditions on a regular basis, both to get scrip, but also to farm for legendaries that you can then turn into god rolls. But basically, make sure that for the next couple of weeks, you're using up your legendary cores as much as possible. I've given you some advice on what I would do, but of course your preferences may vary, so just make sure that you are optimally using up those cores. But whatever you do, don't let those cores get turned into scrip. That is a complete waste. Use them up before the changeover happens on September the 3rd. It may happen a couple of days early, it may happen a couple of days later, but make sure that you've used up most of your cores, right? Have maybe a few left and whatnot, but use up as many as you can. Anyway, I hope that my advice helps some people out there, and I hope that none of you end up losing your cores for nothing. Thanks for watching all the way to the end. Let me know what you thought about it in the comments. Feel free to leave a like, subscribe and hit the bell button to be notified when new videos come out. See you soon.